Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we are starting a reading vlog. So this is going to be a horror reading vlog. I haven't read a lot of horror. I've had mixed reactions with horror. Like, I've read a bit of YA horror that I've enjoyed. Like, I read from like Rinch Pecco, like The Girl in the Well and The Sacrifice. Enjoyed those. I've also read House of Salt and Sour. I did enjoy that when I read it. I also read like some spooky middle grade, like, you know, the Cassidy Blake series, and oh, what's the other one? Small Spaces by Catherine Arden. And I like them. Did love them. I've also read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I give that a 2-star. And then the other horrors that I read, and the two that I really loved, are Lost Boy and Near the Bone by Christina Henry. So we're gonna do attempt number 2, because I did this vlog I think about 2 years ago. The one where I read like Small Spaces, Small Favors, and My Best Friend's Exorcism. And I didn't really love any of them. So we're gonna give it a go, and this time we're gonna try some more adult horror. And so like all 3 of the books that I have planned are gonna be adult horror. If you watch my TBR, you'll already know what they are. So the first one that I'm definitely going to read is The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Sterling. This, I have the audiobook available on SCRIBD. It's only about 13 hours. I listen on 3 times speed. I'm hoping that the audiobook will be a good choice, because as far as I know, this person is underground on some sort of mission, and they have a person like talking to them through a headset, and that is the only communication they have, and this person may or may not be trustworthy. And I feel like maybe an audiobook will be a good way to listen to that, to really get, you know, creepy unsettling vibes. But I've heard mixed opinions on it. Some people I know really love it, some people just were like, this is just boring. So we'll see. we'll see. And recently I did a comic book shopping with me video, and if you watch that video, I'll leave a link down below. I hauled Into the Drowning Deep by Mara Grant. This was also on my TBR, so you also already knew that I was planning on reading it. But I'm really intrigued. I've read from Sean McGuire, I've read like Middle Game, and I've read all of the Wayward Children. Varying degrees of like. I've heard that this is actually very like sci-fi heavy, which I'm excited about, and that it's kind of a bit slow, but by the end you're gonna be amazed. So I'm excited. It follows Killer Mermaids. 7 years ago, there was this mockumentary crew. They went out, they started filming, and then something terrible happened. They never came back. Lots of people believe this is a hoax. Some people believe something terrible really did happen. And so now it's 7 years later, and there's a crew being sent out to discover if something sinister actually did happen. Third book that I'm pretty sure I'm going to read for this is Alice. I have the, not the audiobook, I have the ebook available to me from my library. And I feel like this is a good one to choose, because out of the horrors that I read, I have 2 5-stars from Christina Henry, Lost Boy and Near the Bone. I've also read, what's the Red Riding Hood one? What's the Red Riding Hood one called? Girl in Red. So I've also read The Girl in Red. I give that 3 stars though, but that was more dystopian, and I'm not a big dystopian fan, so we're not gonna hold that against her. Whereas this, I feel like, is more, I feel like this is one of the ones that is like the most like disturbing of her horror books. But I've really enjoyed both of these, and also I find that her writing set is really quick to read, and it's like really addictive, so I should also like fly through it. So yes. Also another author that I think I want to make my way through her entire backlist so I can do a ranking of all of her books, but I would also have to, I think, reread Lost Boy, because I read this in 2019. So I can't really remember. I'm not sure which one I'm actually going to read first, but I'll let you know when I start it. Hi, so I'm a third of the way into Alice, and I don't know what's happening, but I don't think I'm supposed to know what's happening, so that's okay. It's supposed to be a bit weird, because it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling. Speaking of which, Alexa, play Wonderland Taylor's version. 1989 Taylor's version is out, and yeah, I don't care if it's basic. 1989 is Taylor's best album. Fight me. I've done 2 listens too. Overall, I like it. The thing is, I am just resistant to change anyway. It'll take me a couple of listens to like really start to like it, but on first listen to, I liked most of it. Because I know why she stopped working with them was because of the fact they get songwriting credits on every song that they produce, even if they didn't songwrite, even if they didn't actually do any of the writing, and obviously that's not really Taylor's vibe. So that's why they stopped working, as far as I remember, but they already have the songwriting credits on it, so you might as well just pay for them to come back and produce it, because the songs that have the original producers on them are the ones that I like the most on the album. Because Shellback, I think he's on 1 song, which I'm like, 1? Why only I'm so confused by the whole thing. But like, for example, Clean, Imogen Heap. Like, I've never actually listened to any like Imogen Heap songs by themselves, except like Good Night and Go, which I also listened to the Ariana Grande version. But like, I mean, she co-wrote that song with Taylor Swift. She produced that in the original version. She produced it on this one. And like, that's one of the best songs on this. I know a lot of people crap on Jack, but the songs that he originally produced on the original version, which isn't that many, those ones are really strong on this for me. I will say like my favorite ones are like Wildest Dreams and This Love, but that's because those have been out like over a year each. Like Wildest Dream has been out 2 years, so like I have had time to adapt to those. Like I've listened to those over and over already, so like I know the rest will come with time. Because, you know, as I said, allergic to change. Yeah. But what I'm really upset is New Romantics. What did they do to that? Everything else I'm like okay with. Like, I Know Places. Okay, that one, at first I was like, oh no, I don't like this. This is different. But then I got to like the second verse. And I was like, maybe different is good. So like I enjoy the changes in that one. But New Romantics, what have you done, Tara? What have you done? Anyway, this is not supposed to be Taylor Swift reading vlog, but I guess I'll just listen to Wonderland on repeat while reading the rest of Alice. Okay, so this story, it starts with Alice, and she is in like a mental hospital, and there's like a small hole in the wall, and she talks to the person in the room next to her. And then the two of them escape, and the two of them are kind of setting off on this journey to stop this magical creature. And obviously, because like you're like not exactly a trustworthy narrator, she has gaps in her memory. Check the trigger warnings because we've already gotten some heavy stuff, but you're kind of like, you're like, is this real? Is there actual magic in this world? There seems to be people that are like, yeah, there's magic. So you're like, okay, it seems that there is magic. So yeah, so it's very interesting. Her friend slash maybe love interest, I'm not sure, a bit possessive, a bit weird, and like I'm not 100% sure, are we supposed to trust him? Like, so yeah, so it's really interesting so far. It's a bit weird, definitely a bit weirder than Lost Boy or Near the Bone, but it's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, so I would assume that it would be more weird. So I did actually read that bit quite quickly yesterday evening, but it's just I was procrastinating reading all day, so I'm going to try and finish that today and start another book. So let's see if I can do that. I kind of forgot to start filming when I got my package, but I got a waterstones package today, and it's The Hunting Moon by Susan Tennant till the 7th of November. It is the 27th of October. A bit over excited there, I think. Anyway, now I can put it beside the matching one. Hello. So it's been a little bit, honestly not that long though, like 3-4 hours maybe, since I last spoke to you, and I finished Alice by Christine Henry, and I think I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. I might have to sit on it a little longer, but pretty sure it's gonna be a 3 star, like a high 3 star, but not quite there. And I think the reason, mostly because I went in with the wrong expectations, because like I don't actually necessarily think, like I think this book did what it set out to do. So I feel bad giving it a 3 because I'm like, it did exactly what it was trying to. But I expected something different, and so I just didn't really enjoy it. And obviously I rate based on enjoyment, so it's gonna be a 3. It was dark. It was dark, and it was like pretty gruesome and gory at times, and it had very complicated characters and them dealing with a lot in their lives, and it was very like a very confusing Alice in Wonderland type writing style. And it was still like really quick because like the 3 books that I've read from Christina Henry, really quick reads, and that is still the same with this one, but the writing style also is like a little more like, what's, you know, fever dream, a little more Alice in Wonderland-esque, whereas like, you know, I think that's a very impressive thing to be able to do, because with like Near the Bone, she's able to keep that like really fast-paced, you know, gripping writing style, while also still being able to create like this eerie, wintry atmosphere. And I can't really remember Lost Boy. I just remember it being a really quick read. I don't remember there anything being like really stand out except that it was quick. And like The Girl in Red, again, it was like a pretty quick writing style. And then for this one, as I said, it's very much still that quick, gripping writing style, but mixed in with that like fever dream style of Alice in Wonderland. So I think that is very impressive to be able to like keep it so clearly like your writing style while also changing it just slightly to kind of fit the vibe of what you're going for more. I did find our two main characters fascinating because they're not exactly good people and they're not exactly reliable people, but you definitely can't help but feel for them, and they're definitely like flawed because they'll be like talking to the people in like the same situation for that as them, and they're just like really annoyed by the person. And like it's just like, I mean, that's reality. Like you can have empathy for someone and also still be like, you kind of annoy me. Enjoy the horror elements of it. Like it was pretty like, as I said, it was pretty tough to read at points and like pretty bloody at points. But I think this is quite fantasy heavy, and I didn't actually expect that going into this. I thought based on the synopsis, because you get this synopsis of like, she is in a hospital, you know, something terrible happened, she has no memory of it, and she escapes and kind of sets off on a journey to kind of like figure out what's happening. You think like, oh, nearly more of a like contemporary setting maybe, and like, you know, unreliable, but like magic doesn't actually exist, and it's like, you know, because like based on the synopsis that's kind of what you think, but like that's actually not the case. We live like, it's set in like a fantasy world where like magicians did used to exist, but like they don't anymore, but maybe they do. And that I think kind of added to like the confusion at first, because I was like, wait, is this real? And it is, as I said, it is actually quite fantasy heavy, which I did like later learn. She described, like Christina Henry describes it as a dark fantasy, not a horror book, which I would agree with. I would say this is a dark fantasy, but for me, it's not as developed as I like my fantasy novels to be. And so that's why it's a 3-star. Because yes, I think she set out, because yes, I think Christina Henry did what they wanted to achieve. They wrote a dark fantasy novel, but me, like when I read fantasy novels, I want to, you know, complicated world building, and I want to understand the magic and all of this, and you just don't really get that with this book, and it's not what it's trying to be. It's not trying to do that stuff, but that is just like my personal preference. So yeah, but I overall had a good time with it, and as I said, I'm definitely going to continue. See, I don't really have an interest because I know Christina Henry has written a fantasy series, and it's like 7 books long, and I don't think I'm going to read that, which I did say I'm going to read all of Christina Henry's books to do a rank Christina Henry, but I think I'm only going to include like horror books, what like people consider her horror books. So like the retellings, you know, Near the Bone, The Horseman, The Ghost Tree, all of those ones, because I just don't really have an interest in that series. Out of the books that I've read, the only one that I would say is like truly like horror book is Near the Bone. The Red Riding Hood one, why do I keep forgetting what that's called? That's so annoying. I keep forgetting. Like that's very much like sci-fi dystopian. And yes, like again, a lot of the time like the horror aspects come from like more gory stuff. Like this one, as I said, is like dark fantasy. Like, and then like Lost Boy again is set on like, you know, in Neverland, and it is fantasy. I would say that one is actually even less dark than Alice, but I prefer that one because of the fact, number one, that was like really early. Like I hadn't really read a lot of like adult fantasy novels anyway at that point. I was very much still in my YA stage, but I loved the characters in that, and at that point I was like 100% character driven. Like if I loved characters, I loved a book, and that was definitely the case when I read Lost Boy back in like 2019. I loved the characters, and like there was like I still like remember like one scene was pretty gory. So again, like it is like fantasy, but like there's gore, which is what the horror element is. But as I said, so like the one that I'm like Christina Henry horror, like if you want a horror book from Christina Henry, I would say Near the Bone, because this one is very much, it is like, yes, there's like 2 different horrors, because so there's this like, because there's the horror of like, is there a creature in the wood, and also the horror of, you know, a man. So yeah, so like if you like want like a horror Christina Henry, I would say near the bottom. But even then, like, I don't actually think it's like that scary, but I think it has like a good atmosphere, and I think just like overall I think it has like better horror vibes. So I am 1/3 of the way into the Luminous Dead. Is that just Luminous Dead or is it the Luminous Dead? And we enjoy. But I think it's gonna be 3-star. Because even though I'm only 1/3 of the way in, it's already very repetitive, because it's like, oh, goes further into the cave. Person that is like controlling them does something sketchy or says something sketchy. Main character starts to freak out, doesn't trust them. Character above says something, explains it away. Character trusts again, goes further into the cave. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And it's already getting pretty boring, and it's only 1/3 of the way through, so I really hope things start to get shaken up soon. But I would say the narration is good. Hi, so I finished The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling, and I gave it a 2-star. And like, I literally, because I've edited what I have filmed of this vlog so far, and I literally, the only clip I have talking about this book is about a minute long, and that is honestly all you need to know about that book. It is so boring and repetitive. Yeah, not for me at all. But anyway, I never actually really told you what it's about. Like, I did at the start of the video, but it wasn't a very good synopsis. So we follow our main character, whose name I've already forgotten, despite the fact I read the book yesterday. She lives on this planet where there's not a lot of resources or anything like that. So kind of one of the most important jobs that can be done is to be a caver. And she wants to be a caver really badly, but she doesn't really have the experience or the money or anything like that. And so she has signed up for this expedition, which is a little sketchy, but she's desperate for a job. And then as she starts to go down this cave, she realizes that there is only one person instead of a whole team working with her to try and explore this cave. And this person that has full control over her suit and, you know, her life may not be completely trustworthy. And that synopsis does sound interesting, but the book is just so not like that. But like, I mean, like, that is what the book is, but also you never actually feel scared for the character, because like, I can definitely see that maybe like if you are like maybe more claustrophobic or something, maybe this could potentially, you know, get you a bit more. But not for a single second was I scared for the character. Yeah, it didn't have an atmosphere. It didn't have like gore. It didn't have any of that stuff. And I didn't feel for the character. I didn't fear for her. And so, how's it hard? Anyway, yeah, so as I said, so like, goes into the cave, sees something weird happens, or does something weird. Then she starts questioning everything, starts to like get scared, freak out. Then she starts to get mad about the situation, and then explains it away. And then immediately she's like, okay, I trust you with my life again. And then like, don't see, I'm like, if I say the thing that happens, like, it's kind of a spoiler, but it was no, that did not need to be a thing. Yeah, just like, it wasn't. I don't necessarily think it was a bad book. Like, I don't necessarily think it was like poorly written or anything like that. Like, the characters, they were flawed, they were people, but it was boring. And for me, a horror book cannot be boring. So yeah, so it was a 2-star. Okay, so I'm about, I think, 27% of the way into the Drowning Deep by Mara Grant. I'm liking it so far. I'm getting a little worried about how it's gonna go now, because we've all of a sudden, like, the cast of characters, like in the last like 2 or 3 chapters, let's say, has grown exponentially. And I'm just a little worried that you're not gonna have enough time to kind of grow attached feel for the characters, and then I won't care when bad things start happening. So I'm a little worried about that, but I am enjoying it so far. I really enjoyed the start of it. So it is definitely, at this point, it is more sci-fi. obviously like there is the horror of like something bad happened previously, but it's very much, it's talking about like a lot of the main characters are involved in science, hence why they're going on this expedition. I was starting to really enjoy our characters. Like, we've been introduced or hinted at like things in their backstory. Like, there's two characters and they were married and now they seem like very different people, but they were clearly once very happy. And there's like hints about like things that have happened in their past, and you kind of want to know, because like you want to know what has driven both of them to be on this expedition. These people fully believe there's killer mermaids out there and they're still going. I'm like, could not be me. Like, I don't necessarily like or think I'm attached to any of the characters yet, and that's why I'm nervous, because I'm now like, if there's so many more, I don't think I will get attached to them, which I don't think will have the same impact when things start going down, which I know isn't until well into the book as far as I know. But like, I was starting to be really intrigued about them and their backstories. As I said, so there's like a married couple, there's a character whose sister was on it, and so like obviously that's her whole motivation, but like she has a friend, and like there's this ex-boyfriend, and as I said, so you were really starting, there was like 3 or 4 characters that I was like, oh, so these are our main characters. And then all of a sudden we're getting introduced like 5 more in like 1 chapter, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I was already starting to be intrigued by these, and now like I want to know what their stories are, but now we're like trying to know all of these new characters, so I'm a little worried how that's gonna go, but I'm trying not to be too stressed about it. Yeah, I really like Sean McGuire's writing style. Obviously it's hit or miss for me in The Wayward Children, just because that's shorter and so she has to like skip out on details every so often, but I think she does a really good job of like creating an atmosphere, and like her writing style is actually very easy to read. Like, I even found that in Middle Game, like, yes, that is a confusing book, and like this is a very science heavy book, but like it's never confusing, it's very easy to read, but still it's really nice and it's really atmospheric. And yeah, I also appreciate that. So I think that's really all. So I don't really have much to say, but I am enjoying it, so we'll see. Okay, so I am 50% of the way into the Journey Sheep by Margaret. I'm really liking it so far. So also, if you hear the sizzling, that's just food. And also if you hear banging, that's fireworks. Happy Halloween. I will say, like, yes, that first third is slow, but it starts to pick up. Well, no, it doesn't really. Like, I thought it would be like after the 50% mark before like kills started happening, and that's like not the case. Like, about a third of the way in it starts, but it's like slow, because like, you know, one happens and then it's like dealing with that, and then another happens. So like, I feel like it's going to like pick up the pace as we continue on. But yeah, it happened earlier than I thought it would, and I am liking it so far. I think it's gonna be a 4-star. I'm really liking all like the science aspect, just all of these characters. Like, it's kind of hard to root for them because I'm like, you're all idiots. Like, why would you do that? And I'm like, for a bunch of smart people, you're all really stupid. Because they're like, oh, it killed this person, but it won't kill me. I'm special. It's like, no, it will. So yeah, but like, I mean, that's just like humanity. We think we're the main characters, isn't it? So that's not like a complaint about the book. It's actually like a really fascinating kind of part of the book, because it's talking about, you know, the fact that, you know, we rationalize, we look for excuses and all of this. So like, that is interesting. I don't really like feel attached to any of the characters, like enough that like if they die I'm gonna like be mad over it or have like big emotions. But I care enough that I want to know their stories, like their backstories, what made them the way they are. And I think obviously, I mean, I'm still exploring my horror taste, but I think like the creature kind of books seem to be the ones I like best, because like Near the Bone and this one, I would say, are probably 2 of my favorite like actual like horror books, and both of them have like monstrous creatures in them. There's one character, well, there's a lot of characters where like their motivations are actually starting to make less sense. Like there's this one character who, like from the start of the book, obsessed with like mermaids, knows in her head that they're real, tries to find him. After the first crew went down, she wants there to be a second crew. She wants to be on it. And she waits years for this to happen. 7 years. She waits for this to happen. And she gets to go there, and literally all she does is complain, basically. Oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And then when, surprise, there are killer mermaids, she's like, we should turn back. You knew that this was going to happen. You keep telling everyone. You're basically like, I told you so. There's killer mermaids. And you're like, okay, let's turn back. I'm like, I don't understand, because her whole point of going, she has waited for them to make another expedition. And she's like, okay, turn back now. I'm like, yeah, I know it's not exactly pleasant and all this. And she's like, you know, yeah, she basically is like, they're predators, they're after us and all of it. And like, but she's so resistant to hurting them. Like, she just want to kill the mermaids, which, like, yeah, I totally get that. But also, you so badly want to study the mermaids, but you're also refusing to kill or capture one to then study. And I'm like, do you know how science works? And this is terrible lighting, but I've finished Into the Drowning Deep. And I just want to close out this vlog really quickly because I want to get it up. And like, I have it all edited except this last clip. So I want to get it up tonight. So, because Halloween. So yeah, I don't really have too much to add from what I've already said. I'm giving it a 4-star. I liked it. I think it really does speed up after like the 50% mark. It's just go, 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 go from there. And I enjoyed it. I would say probably my favorite part was actually the first 30%, which isn't hard. Like, that was like a sci-fi. I'm like, girl, the sci-fi taste test was back in April. Get over it. Like, that was my favorite part. Like, that was like a really high 4-star, but the rest was still like solid 4-star. I like Sean McGuire's writing style. I liked the science elements of it, and I liked the slow build because it really kind of had that like eerie and settling feeling. And then after the first death, everyone's reaction stuff does still have that like weird kind of off-putting sensation. And then like, as I said, deaths really start to ramp up, and I will say it's not like gory horror, like that's not what it is, but it is, you know, fight for survival. And yeah, I did enjoy it. As I said, I will say second half I liked it slightly less, but I still liked it. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you did. If you did, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.